There is major breaking news from the Middle East. Hamas has accepted a ceasefire proposal from Egypt and Qatar. NBC's Raf Sanchez is following this for us. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist is reporting from the White House. Raf, give us the outline of this. What do we know about this potential deal?
So, Chris, in just the last couple of minutes, Hamas has released a statement from the leader of its political wing, Ismail Haniyeh. He says that Hamas has agreed to this ceasefire proposal put through by Qatar and Egypt, a proposal that has now been on the table for more than a week, a proposal that the U.S. has been urging Hamas to take. Now, our understanding of the most recent iteration of this proposal is that Hamas would agree to the release of 33 hostages from the so-called humanitarian category. So that is women, it is children, it is the elderly, it is people with serious medical conditions. And in return, Israel would agree to a 40-day ceasefire and the release of potentially thousands of Palestinian prisoners. Now, we should stress, Gus, at this point, all we have is this statement from the political wing of Hamas. We do not have the detail of what exactly it is that they have agreed to. And there has been pretty frenetic diplomacy over the weekend involving CIA Director Bill Burns, who has been crisscrossing the Middle East, starting in Egypt, flying to Qatar, coming here to Israel. So it is possible that the framework of that deal has changed over the weekend. It is also worth saying that these deals are often structured in terms of first an agreement on a broad framework and then a hammering out of the details. And as you know, Chris, the devil is often in the detail. But there is positive indication for the first time since that last ceasefire deal, which lasted only a week, collapsed on December 1st last year. This is the first time that we have heard from Hamas that they are prepared to accept a ceasefire proposal. Now, we have heard nothing officially from the Israeli government. Israel is certainly aware of this statement from Hamas. They are studying it, but we have not heard yet from Prime Minister Netanyahu or from Israeli officials. But this is a potentially positive sign after these many, many months of bloodshed in Gaza and these many, many painful months of the hostages staying in Hamas captivity. Chris.
So without anything, Raf, from Israeli officials, no way to know how this might impact the assault that we are expecting in Rafah, where what now, about 1.4 million civilians remain?
Well over 1 million Palestinian civilians sheltering in that southern city of Rafah, Chris, and that is why the U.S. has consistently said that it opposes any large-scale Israeli ground offensive in the city. Now, early this morning, Palestinian residents in the east of Rafah found themselves with a snowfall of leaflets falling from Israeli aircraft with a pretty stark message saying, get out of this area. Israel's military plans to attack. Now, that area, around 100,000 Palestinian civilians sheltering inside of it. That's according to the IDF. They were told to flee to so-called humanitarian zones on the Mediterranean coast of Gaza. At this point, no Israeli forces have actually moved in to begin that offensive. And it is not clear, Chris, whether this is the large-scale attack that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been threatening for months now, aimed, he says, at destroying the 4 Hamas battalions that are hiding in the city, or if this is potentially a more limited operation in response to Hamas firing rockets yesterday, which killed 4 Israeli soldiers around Kerem Shalom. But this has certainly caused widespread alarm inside of Gaza. Palestinian civilians who have been displaced so many times already, packing up their tents, fleeing on foot in sometimes donkey-drawn carriages. But, Chris, it is also possible that the movement we saw today was an Israeli negotiating tactic designed to put pressure not just on Hamas, but also on Egypt, also on the United States, to get an agreement through. We don't know yet what the relationship is between this Hamas statement and this Israeli escalating inside of Rafah, but it is notable that Hamas saying it has agreed to this deal just a few hours after those leaflets were dropped and just very shortly after that phone call wrapped up between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Chris.
So I just want to make sure I understand, because so much of the concern over the last many months has surrounded the hostages. The latest number I see, Raf, is that there are 132 hostages. By that, I think we can say people believed to have been taken hostage who are still missing, but obviously some of them are presumed dead, as many as 5 U.S. citizens. And of these, apparently 33 would be released under this deal.
Yeah, Chris, that's right. So Israel's official numbers, 132 hostages being held inside of Gaza. That number actually lowered from 133 last week, when it turned out that a young man who was thought to be held hostage in Gaza was actually killed on October 7th, his body found inside of Israel. So 132 hostages in total. Officially, around 35 or so of them are known to be dead, according to the Israeli government. Israel suspects that the real number is potentially significantly higher than that. And that number of hostages in total includes civilians, it includes soldiers. So this humanitarian category would be focused on women, be focused on children, be focused on the elderly, and people with serious medical conditions. Now, there are 5 American hostages who are thought to be alive in Hamas captivity right now. We have seen hostage videos of 2 of them over the last couple of weeks. Hersh Goldberg Poland, that young man who was kidnapped from the music festival, his left arm blown off by a Hamas grenade while he was sheltering in a bomb shelter on the side of the road. And also Keith Siegel, who was 64 years old, born in North Carolina, living in one of the kibbutzim along the Gaza border. He is the oldest known American hostage still alive in Hamas captivity. Now, it is not clear, Chris, whether Hersh Goldberg Poland, because of his serious injuries, Keith Siegel, because of his age, would be included in that humanitarian category or not. We think the priority would likely be the women. There are 2 young children, the Bibas brothers, who are unaccounted for inside of Gaza. Hamas has claimed at certain points that those children are dead. Israel has never officially confirmed that, but the priority would be getting the women and the children out first. And so this is certainly a moment of hope for the families of Israeli hostages who have waited so long for any good news, who have ridden this roller coaster, who have seen these talks appear to make progress only to collapse again. They will be very wary, as you can imagine, Chris, of getting their hopes up today off the back of this statement, which, again, we should stress is from the political wing of Hamas. We have not yet heard anything from Yahya Sinwar, who is the Hamas chief in Gaza, the man who is believed to be the ultimate decision maker in this situation. He is thought to be in the tunnels underneath southern Gaza right now. But, Chris, you can absolutely bet that with their limited internet, there are people in Rafah right now, potentially people who are fleeing from their homes at this very moment, who are hoping that this is the breakthrough that they have been praying for also, and that for the first time since December 1st, that there might be a pause in the fighting, the hostages might be coming out, that more humanitarian aid might be coming in.